There we go. Okay. Oops. Go back, retrace my steps here. And hopefully I haven't lost you guys. So as I was saying, it's a very, well, it's a simple phrase, right, that communicates the value that your product or service is going to offer to a specific audience. Okay, again, the point is it communicates the value. And those audiences can be things like your customers. Usually it's your customers, but there's other ones, you have other audience groups as well. Stakeholders, sometimes investors, and even your competitors, right? Anybody who is going to come into contact, whether it's through a website or an advertisement, an article, any place that someone is going to come into contact with what you're offering, your product or your service, yeah, each of those need to understand the value that you're providing. Okay, even your competition, yeah. And the other thing to remember is that each of these different target groups might have different needs regarding your product or service. Okay, they don't all necessarily have the same perspective or the same reason why they're interested in it. So it's a very crucial thing for you as a creator, as an inventor, as a startup founder, as a builder, whoever you are. It's important to know who you're addressing and what their needs are regarding what you're trying to provide to them. So the proposition itself is going to convey the promise of what you'll deliver, right? It's almost like a commitment. My product, me as a startup founder or as a business, I'm making a commitment. I'm making a promise that if you take my product, this is what you're going to benefit from, right? What kind of a benefit is it going to bring to you in your life, whether it's your professional life, your personal life? What is the main value that you're getting, and why is it going to be better for you than the competitive products, right? Most people are already using something, a product or a service, to meet their needs, to solve their problems, to get their work done, and so forth. So why is it that they should switch from what they're currently using to something new, to your product, your service? Yeah. So why should they choose you over the competition? And a value proposition needs to have those elements in there, right? It needs to be able to clearly give a sense that, wow, if I get this, then I'm sure that I will benefit by X, Y, Z. And those benefits are greater than what I'm getting with what I'm currently using, right? That's the feeling behind the value proposition. What is it not? Many times value propositions are confused with things like mission statements, slogans, taglines. These are all really important elements of communication. Very, very important for companies to have all of those things. They're not the same as a value proposition, but sometimes, or often actually, they function together, right? So all combined, these different elements will actually bring the full value, for the full message of value to the target audience. So let's take a look at what these are, right? What's the difference? Okay. A value proposition is, as I mentioned, oriented around the product or service. Okay. And basically, again, it's going to tell them what we offer and why they should choose us, right? So it's specifically oriented towards what we're trying to get them to choose. A mission statement, on the other hand, is much more goal oriented, right? And it's basically about what is our objective as a company? What are we trying to achieve overall as a company? Not as a product, right? But as a company. A slogan, yeah, is pretty much marketing oriented. And it's another short phrase. Many times they're confused with value propositions, but this is more of an advertising or marketing function. So it's a very specific product. So you can have all sorts of different slogans that are associated with different products. And each of those products and slogans are sort of underneath the umbrella of the value proposition, right? They need to be in sync. All of these different elements need to be well thought out and oriented towards the same overall sense of the company, right? And you need to make sure that there's nothing clashing between these, right? A tagline, another thing, which is much more sort of marketing, sales, vision oriented, yeah, is kind of a concept that your organization stands for, right? So it's something that's more about, okay, us as a company, us as an organization, where are we in the world? What are we trying to say we want to achieve and deliver to the world as a company, right? So a mission statement and a tagline are kind of go hand in hand, and then a slogan and a value proposition all go hand in hand. But all four of these things need to be taken together, kind of as a package. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples. Does anybody have questions? No? Nothing. Okay. First one I have here is a company called Crossrope. Now, what is Crossrope? Crossrope is a jump rope. Okay, and this is a screenshot from their website that was taken a year or two ago. If you go onto their website now, I'll bring it in a second. We can look at the difference here. But if you see the kind of text, sorry, the text that they have here, right? You can really understand what the kind of messaging is that they're giving to their customers, okay? And the value proposition is right here. Yeah, it's in these two sets of text. The first is we've perfected the jump rope, right? Meticulous engineering and hours of testing resulted in the most effective jump rope system on the planet. Okay, so right there, what you offer your customers and why they should choose you. Yeah. And then it's developed further down here, showing the various elements of the product itself, right? So, but right in here, there's several interesting words that I want to highlight here, right? First of all is perfected. Yeah. So what does perfected say to us? Anybody want to take a crack at that?
So this means that they have done some research and they have done a lot to this.
Exactly. Sophia, I just saw your message. We're very glad to have you here. I'm really glad you're here. Welcome. Exactly. So the word perfected, right? And then down in here, it emphasizes that there's research involved behind this product, right? They didn't just randomly take a jump rope and throw a few more fancy pieces of coil on there or make a few nice handles and so forth, right? This is the result of hours and days and months and years and a lot of money, right? Meticulous engineering and hours of testing, yeah, bring us to perfection. So the other thing about the word, what else does the word perfect or perfection bring to mind?
It's also a kind of message, a hidden message about previous competitors, that this is something of a higher quality than those which can be found on the market.
Exactly. So it's we're a level up above. You can't get any better than us. We've reached perfection with this jump rope, right? And as you say, very, very important, and you guys, that it implies that everybody else that's doing this out there has an inferior product, right? So again, back to what do we offer and why should they choose us, right? Meticulous, another great word here, right? Meticulous engineering and hours of testing. Okay, so meticulous means to the utmost detail, right? We go down to the very, very tiniest detail we can and engineer it really well. Okay, so again, this is all about a very, very high quality. Hours of testing, right? Like Yori, like you pointed out, right? It's been vetted, right? We've tried it and made sure, resulted, again, another key word, in the most effective jump rope system. All right, so the key word in this, there's two keywords in this second line here. I think one is system and the other is planet, right? So a jump rope is no longer a jump rope. Some of us maybe, not everybody for sure in this audience, but some of us are old enough to remember when jump ropes were in fact just jump ropes. But now we have a jump rope system. Yeah. And then down below, oh, sorry, and on the planet, of course, right? So the planet is the planet, right? And between perfected and planet, we're promising our customers that this is something truly, truly, top quality and the best that you can get, the best that you can get. Okay. And then down here, we back up this value proposition. We back it up with some quote unquote facts, right, about the product. So the weighted ropes, right, pick them up and you're about to get a full body workout. Okay. Over here, they're talking about the construction, how durable it is, the kinds of materials that you're using. And then down here, we talk about the quote unquote system, right? The interchangeable. So you get to change between different kinds of jump ropes. Okay. This is again, very, very much about the technology of the jump rope, and high performance handles, again, more about the sort of quality and technology behind it. So overall, what do you feel about this product just by the value proposition here? Anybody have an impression about that?
Sorry, what did you ask?
With these two, the value proposition here, we perfected the jump rope, meticulous engineering. And then looking at this overall, what do you feel about this product? What kind of a sense do you get from it?
That they are the perfect one. So we have to choose them and not to find or to search for others.
Exactly. What does it tell you about what you might pay for this product?
It looks like a premium product, so it will be like a premium price straight up.
Probably. Yeah, exactly. So this is, I mean, moving a little, I'm going into more of an overall marketing kind of thing right now. But I think that the whole way that they've set this up, it's very, very clean. There's not a lot of extra text or extra images. So you get the sense that this is very much in the high technology kind of area of something, even though it is just a jump rope, right? Which is one of the most low tech things you could possibly get. But they've managed to sort of put this into a very high quality, high tech, high price point sort of position. Overall, I think this is a very effective piece of communicating. Okay, let's take a look at another one. This is a completely different sort of product. Okay, and this one I wanted to show you the combination of both the value proposition and the mission statement. So this is an NGO called, actually it's not an NGO, sorry, it's a nonprofit company called Charity Water. I don't know if any of you have heard of them or not. And basically they provide clean drinking water to people all over the world. It's an interesting story if you ever want to do some research into it. Their founder was working as a professional alcoholic, basically, for several years in New York. He would go to bars and large liquor companies would pay him to sit in the bar and drink their brand. So he would sit in a bar and drink a bottle of Bacardi rum every night, or a bottle of very high-end vodka or something else. And he decided after several years of doing this, and after literally becoming an alcoholic through his work, that he needed to have a reset. And so he went on a journey to Africa, and saw people that were drinking water out of very, very unsanitary places and conditions. And he decided, he had kind of a change of heart about his life in general, and decided that, he'd spent so many years drinking alcohol when there's so many people on the planet that didn't even have proper water to drink. And so he devoted the rest of his life to, or decided to devote his life to, bringing drinking water to people. So he this is a very mission-driven company, but it is a company that's selling a product. And so in order to sell the product, you actually have to, obviously sell something to people. And what is he selling? He's selling water, right? So here in the upper part, we've got the value proposition, right? What we offer the customers, why they should choose us. Why should they choose you? 100% of your money okay, brings clean water to people in need. Transform lives for families around the world. Every single penny will help bring clean water to communities in need. All right. Give monthly. So what he's doing is he's actually with this, he's basically doing a subscription fundraising. Yeah. So you can buy a package of like a subscription monthly rate where you basically send money, and that money goes to buy drinking water or buy the access to drinking water, because much of their work is about actually, improving conditions, improving infrastructure, and so forth. So again, we've got these two phrases that not only say what they're offering, right? But it also says why they should choose us. And there's some triggers in here. Why do you think this is important that they say 100% of your money brings clean water? Does that resonate with anybody? Anybody got any ideas? Well, I'll tell you, in especially in the sort of world of philanthropy and charity, there's a lot of debate over how much money actually goes to the place it's supposed to go, right? There's always a lot of, anytime the Red Cross goes and does a campaign and tries to raise money, or lots of other charities, when they try to raise money, there's always some question about how much of the money goes to the administration and the management of the charity itself, and how much of it actually goes to the end recipient, right? So there's always this kind of question in people's minds: how much of, if I send you $100, or if I send you 1,000 euros, how much of that 1,000 euros is actually going to go to the water for the people that need it, and how much of it is going to go to pay the office expenses and the server costs and everything, all the other expenses that are associated with running this charity, right? So with these two statements, they automatically target and dispute that thought in people's heads, right? They relieve them of that doubt. Okay, 100% of your money and every single penny. So they say it twice, right? So that establishes a sense of certainty, of trust, of honesty, transparency, all of those things, right, that are necessary to actually get people to obey this call to action, or to fulfill this call to action here, right? This give monthly, because that's what the whole part of this website is, for me to click on that button and then actually put in my credit card or my bank's transfer, whatever. Okay, so this is a really, really important thing. Why they should choose us is because I can transform lives, right? So I will choose them because I can transform lives, but also I will choose them because all the money is going to go where it's supposed to go, right? So I felt like this is a really, really powerful example of how they're kind of hitting two different needs or two different problems that people have at once, right? So me as a viewer of this charity, right? My problem is that I'm looking for a place to donate or to give money. I'm looking for people to help. And I'm also, though, looking to be assured that my money is going to go where I want it to go, right? So that's what this means by, because I'm the customer here, yeah. And so this company needs to convince me why I should be doing that. And I think that's a really successful example. So then down here, right, we've also got the mission statement. They even say mission, yeah. So, 1 in 10 people lack access to clean water. We're on a mission to change that. And that's his objective, right? As what he started out as a startup, and now it's an established company, right? So this is a very, very clear statement of what they are trying to do, what they're about as a company. Okay, last one here I wanted to show you is Evernote. Probably some of you are familiar with it. Maybe yes, maybe no. And this is just, this screenshot here is an example of a value proposition, a tagline, and a slogan, right? So the value proposition here, right here, take notes anywhere, find information faster, share ideas with anyone. Okay, these three phrases, sentences actually, are exactly what they're offering to their customers. Yeah. Why they should choose you. Okay. Share ideas, this same thing. I can take notes anywhere, I can find information faster, and I can share ideas with anyone. That's it, right? Up here, yeah, we've got the tagline. Okay. What I said, the sort of concept that the organization is standing for, yeah? So your notes, organized, effortless. And this all falls together with the value proposition, and then finally with this with the slogan. Sorry, this is the slogan, not the tagline. Down here, the tagline: meeting notes, web pages, projects, to-do lists. Right. With Evernote as your note-taking app, nothing falls through the cracks. Okay, this last phrase here: with Evernote as your note-taking app, nothing falls through the cracks. So this is particularly about the app itself. Right, that's why this is this is targeting the specific product. This is the sort of overall concept that they want people to understand, and then this here is the value. Yeah, do you see how that all works together? This is so hard, you guys, because A, I don't see anybody's faces, and B, I feel like I'm talking to myself. So anyone who has questions or thank you. Thanks, guys. Anyone who wants to say anything? Is this making sense so far? All right. Okay, let's go a little bit further. The other thing that's important to remember when you're putting together a value proposition is what we call performance benefits. Okay, so if you want to try and it's a little bit more, how do I say this? Specific in terms of the value that you're bringing to your audience, right? So it has to do with functionality, right? Functionality in terms of the actual way that the product or the service is going to perform. And in this case, when we're trying to relate performance benefits, it comes down to words like better, stronger, faster, cheaper, right? But you need to be able to back those up with facts. That's the most important part about this, is that if you can't just say it's better, stronger, faster, cheaper, you have to show examples of that. So for instance, in the jump rope, right, they were talking about hours of testing, right? So there has to be certain words and phrases that show that you're not just saying this, that actually back it up and proof to whoever your audience is, right? The thing is that it also, because when you're implying these kinds of functional benefits, it sort of automatically differentiates you from your competition, because these are obviously all comparative words, right? Better, stronger, faster, cheaper. So it's better than, stronger than, faster than, cheaper than. Yeah. So we, in our mind, even if we don't have the than, we sort of add that on, and we make our own comparisons as users or clients of the company. Okay, so let's try and do a little bit on our own here. We'll see how much of this we can do as an exercise and how much of it I'll kind of walk you guys through. This is, I know it's been, very, it's gotten much more common these days, especially after the pandemic, which has now become kind of a cliche, shall we say, to have a lot of telehealth, especially in services for the elderly. So, and I know that there's a lot of research happening in living labs right now that have to do with, at least in healthcare related living labs, that have to do with products and services that are for different kinds of mixed, let's call them mixed populations, where you have mixed age populations, and trying to serve the needs of different members of those populations. So I thought we can take a look at an elder care app. Okay, this is a product that we are inventing ourselves now. Yeah, not one of the current ones that's on the market. And the first thing we do when we're trying to understand the value, or to convey the value of our product, is think about what are the target groups that we're communicating with, right? Who are these different audiences that we have? Because as I mentioned earlier, they may have different needs regarding the topics that we're addressing, right? So typically we're looking at basically 3 or 4 different groups. I would say in this case, we're going to look at customers, users, and stakeholders. Okay. And I'm separating out customers and users because they're actually often 2 different groups, right? The user is the one who's actually interacting with the product or service. They're using it, or they're not using it, right? They are the user, obviously. The customer is who? Any ideas why a customer is different from a user sometimes? Customer pays the bill, right? The customer is the one who's actually buying the product. Now, that's a whole different seminar, and maybe under different circumstances we'll have a chance to explore those things. But the customer and the user, again, sometimes are the same, sometimes are different. They're all trying to solve at least one problem, maybe more, right? Sometimes the user and the customer, if they're different entities, they're going to they're going to be solving the same problem. Sometimes they'll be solving different problems. They may or may not be using a different solution already. That's the competition, right? And that different solution is or is not, to whatever degree, problematic for them, right? If they have a problem with their current solution, that problem with that current product, it has to be acute enough to warrant changing to a new one, right? And that means that they have to appreciate the difference between what they're currently using and what you're offering, yeah? And they have to appreciate that difference enough to actually purchase that product or service, okay? Or to use that product or service as the end user, yeah? So the thing is that many times we may buy something because we think it's better, but it's either too much of a pain to switch over, right? How many of us have bought products that we've never actually used because we thought that they were the right solution, and then it was too much of a hassle to install them or to get them up and working, learn how to use them, all those things. So just because they're going to purchase a new product, unless the value of that product, the benefit of that product is very, very quickly established, they may not ever use it, right? And they definitely aren't going to purchase it if the value of that product is not readily apparent to them. Sorry. Okay. What about stakeholders, right? Stakeholders are not necessarily users or customers. Users and customers are obviously stakeholders, but there's other kinds of stakeholders as well. And they're also really important it's very important to keep them in mind when you're building a value proposition, right? Because some of them are involved in your research. Sometimes they're your product development, right? Maybe they're helping you with, user-centered design. Maybe they're the ones that are actually testing the product. They're giving you feedback from their own experience and so forth. Stakeholders are the ones, they have some kind of a vested interest in this product or service succeeding, right? So they may or may not be purchasers, but this influence is definitely there. So for instance, people that are involved or institutions that are involved in the delivery of your service, right? So for an elder care app, we don't just have the end users and the app making company, right? We also have the doctors that are going to be available in
product service. There may or may not be purchasers. We other things.
Exactly. So we have, for instance, hospitals, care homes, right? Home care workers and so forth. So in the service delivery, there's other individuals and commercial or, organizational entities that are involved, right? So stakeholders are kind of a complicated group here, and it's really, really important that you understand the value of your product or service towards them, or what role they play in delivering the value to the end user. That's the other side of this, right? So for instance, in terms of regulatory stakeholders, you know, there may be certain agencies or individuals who are policymakers that are going to have some kind of a say over, you know, what your product does, what it doesn't do, what it can do, cannot in terms of the regulatory environment. Marketers and influencers, anybody who has an engagement with your product in sort of a commercial or a marketing space, right? They may have some influence over it. People who, or excuse me, companies who are involved in distributing your product, right? Any sort of an affiliate relationship that you have. And finally, if you're getting revenue from any place other than your customers, right? Your advertisers, they all need, every single one of these categories of stakeholders needs to understand what is the value that you're offering from your product and how does that compare to what else is on the market, because they all have an interest, a vested interest in your product or service being successful. Okay, so I wanted to try and do a Menti poll real fast. Let's see, how many folks do we have here with us? Let me see. Okay. All right. So, oops, sorry. I wanted to go back here. I'm looking at the poll. Okay. So if we have an elder care app as a product, right? We've got basically 3 different target groups that are going to be directly involved in using and purchasing this product, right? So elderly people, they're caregivers that can be family members or not, and then healthcare professionals, right? So what kind of needs do they have from the product? And what kind of a value can we bring to them? Do you guys want to do this Menti real fast? I can drop it into, whoops, I'll drop it into the chat. Oh, oops, sorry, hang on. I just went to one person. Let's take it to them. Okay. So again, the questions is what are their needs and what value do we bring them? And let me go here. Okay. So if you guys want to join, this is the join code. 53943128. Anybody have any responses? Are you guys able to join? Caregivers, elderly people. Who else? Family members, okay. Older people, chronic older people, yeah. So what kinds of needs do we have here? Right? What kind of a need can you imagine that these people are dealing with?
Need for care and what this app can provide to older people, and how useful this can be to manage the care, for example, for older people, and to create a schedule between the caregivers and family members for the care provision or providing for the providing care of the patients, of the elderly people.
So do you think it's interesting that it's family members and elderly people are the I guess I think two people said that, and or three
No,
maybe.
because most of caregivers in elderly people are informal caregivers and are family members.
True.
And for that is very important that they have all the information what this app can provide to them, because in most of the times these family members can be people that are at work, or can be their children that are studying. So in most cases the caregivers are informal, and so that's the point and the problem in older people. And
True.
how this app can make independent or autonomous these elderly people to fulfy their autonomy on, or the queries that they have in relation to for the daily activity.
Right. So what kind of a value are we bringing them with this app?
Yes.
Can anybody think of think about what we talked about with value propositions? Can anybody propose a value proposition here for our app? A short phrase.
Independence, autonomy, safety.
Pationa, can you
Yes.
can you click on this and put some of those words in?
Okay. But when?
There's if you in the chat,
Yes.
if you click on that link,
Okay, okay.
and then you can type in the code. The code is 53943128. Yeah.
Okay.
Since everybody else is too scared to type in. I have to get my power supply just a second. Security, great. I think you said autonomy as well.
Adrian, perhaps you would like to share the screen with the Mentimeter poll, because there it's appearing.
Ah, I'm sorry.
You can share the Mentimeter, and there we can see the responses for all.
Wait, you guys aren't seeing this? Oh,
No, we are seeing the presentation.
Oh, no. Okay, sorry about that. Hold on. My mistake. I saw it. Nobody else did. Sorry, you guys. Hold on just a second here. There we go. Okay, so let's go back to the first one. All right, there we go. So there's our word cloud. Older people, family members, elderly people. Anybody else have another answer on the audience? Who's the audience? Okay, let's try the value proposition here. Independence and peace. Peace, I like that. That's interesting. I wouldn't have come up with that one, but that's a great word here. Personalized care plans, great. Real-time health monitoring, security, exactly. So does anyone want to take a crack at actually making a phrase here of what a phrase in the form of a value proposition?
Here we have an elder care app which give independence and peace, security, real-time health monitoring for personalized care plans.
Okay, great.
Empower seniors, ensure peace and security.
Do you want to type that in? Are you guys seeing it now?
Yes, I think.
Okay. Any other thoughts? All right. We might come back to that in a second. Let me go back to the presentation here. I wanted to share something else with you guys from in the PowerPoint. Now that you've gone through that. So the question of needs right? What are their needs and what value do we bring them? When we're trying to discover user needs, and some of you who have startups may have gone through this exercise, but it's really important to understand them, what are the emotions associated with it, because that's also very useful for a value proposition. Understanding behind the need, what are the triggers that go along with that? So we can use a very simple map to do that, where we talk about, this person needs a way to do something. This is their goal or their need. And then we can use words like surprisingly, because, or but, there is some kind of an insight or an obstacle that we understand. So with our two users here, this is Rafael and this is his mom. Okay, we're going to see what happens when we ask them these questions. And usually you'll do something like this in a group, interviewing people. And that gives you a better sense of kind of how they respond to the needs that they have and how that might help you translate that into value with your product. So this is Rafael, and he needs a way to stay in close contact with Lillian, his mother. She's in a care home, right? That's his goal, Rafael's goal or need. Surprisingly, or because, why does he need to stay in close contact with his mother? Because she's had 3 proposals of marriage so far in the care home there, and he's worried that she'll accept. So you can often, when you're interviewing people, you can often have some interesting responses that you never would have considered, right? And those kinds of responses and that information that you get when you're interviewing them, when you're talking to your users or observing them, can lead you to really understand yourself some of the values that are in that product that you may not have realized, right? So in this case, he really, his main need is to stay in close contact, but kind of be able to be really aware of what's happening to her, and then make sure that he has a clear line of communication, as you guys said. Because if she's got, having marriage proposals in the care home, and she gets married one day, he shows up to visit her, and she's got a new husband, then that's maybe going to be some new circumstances for him. So in this case, Raphael's needs and his emotions are mixed, right? They're mixed. So we understand what he wants and what he needs. We can go in and make a profile of him. This is called user profiling, right? And really drill down into how our product is going to answer those needs. Okay, so step 1 is to do the needs profiling. Step 2 is to take a look at the competition and the overall market context. So what's the status quo out there right now? How many different apps and products are doing the same thing as we're trying to do, right? What kinds of advantages and disadvantages do each of these products have, right? Is this a crowded kind of space for us to have a product in? If it's really, really crowded, then that makes our job to convey the value much more difficult, right? We have to be able to differentiate between all these other ones and really drill down into why are we better? What is the value and the benefit that's coming out of our product? In order to do that, we have to understand our competition real well. So finally, step 3, is bringing all of these things together, as we said, into a solution statement and a value proposition, right? So we drill back down onto the needs and the emotions, why they're using something else right now, or maybe they're not using anything. We need to understand why that is. And then that solution becomes the basis for our value proposition, sorry. So we are just about ready to switch over to Andy. I'm not going to keep you guys longer like I did on Tuesday. But it's just some key takeaways here, right? Value proposition tells someone why they should choose you, makes the benefits of your solution clear. It's different from taglines, mission statements, or slogans, but those all go together, right? So for companies, it's really important that starting with you, founders, builders, company owners, that you understand the needs and problems and the value your solution provides, and then you figure out how to communicate that with them. And finally, make sure and communicate any type of a performance benefit, right, with a fact. So I am going to say thank you very much for your attention so far. And I'm going to hand it over to Andy if he's ready.
Yes, I am. I hope I
Great.
can share the slides somehow.
Absolutely. I'm going to, I think you can share the screen now. I'll just do a very, very quick one-line introduction here. Andy Heikkilä is the CEO of Accelerate Venture Builder, and he's based in Malta. Close colleague, we're working together on another project, and I'm very, very pleased to have him here. He has a huge amount of experience working with the European Union and their funded programs. Oh, he's going to introduce himself just fine. So Andy, take it away, and hopefully you all can stick around for our startup founder at the end of his talk as well.
Thank you, Adrian, and thank you quite a bit of your talk just before my presentation, because it gives quite nice, let's say, runway to the topic that we are also touching here. And the value proposition is a super important part of the work that we are doing. And I think it's the most difficult one what comes to the innovation commercialization. The innovation commercialization that I have been dealing with, basically the last 20 years, I've been working with researchers, and especially with researchers who have lots of scientific background, and they have been developing scientific instruments. And basically then I established my company at some point. So I was at CERN in Geneva, building the Large Hadron Collider and the instruments there together with industry. And at some point, I just realized that, okay, there is quite a bit of need for the researchers to get things commercialized and get out from the lab. And then I established Accelerate, which is a venture builder. And our value prop is always evolving, but I think what we are doing is that we try to give the researchers peace of mind in the innovation commercialization while we are doing all the operations and operational activities in order to get these innovations to the market. Because very often the researchers do not like to become entrepreneurs, so we kind of step in and be the entrepreneurs for them. So, like Adrian already said, yes, Malta is really our base. And recently we just established actually a branch in US as well, because we have first clients for one of our portfolio companies. And we focus quite a bit on the European research areas which are supported by the European Research Council, European Innovation Council, and of course EIT as well. Adrian mentioned earlier today that I will be covering also the EIT funding instruments. I can mention a little bit of them, but I will concentrate more on the EIC actually during my presentation and the latter part of the presentation.
That's fine. That's great.
Our specialties are in life science, and usually the technology areas that we are somehow dealing with are, of course, engineering and then deep tech, which might be a buzzword nowadays. So everything that is doable with, let's say, computers is very deep nowadays. So software is part of the solutions that we are working with. And we have been selected as a EIC partner as well, and we are helping quite a bit their grantees to get to the market and get funding and all these types of things. We have an approach. Basically, a company is never ready. It's always evolving, and companies should have some type of a vision. And we have a vision that we would like to be like big house which is focusing on various parts of the innovation commercialization. So we would be working on the business development part, technology development part, and then also have some type of a funding facility. All these ones would be then combined with some type of a sales activity as well, and that would then kind of close the gap that usually is what comes to the lab and having a solution in the market. And the way we are doing it is usually in collaboration with research groups and industry, and also the stakeholders that were mentioned earlier today. So we create quite a bit of different types of projects, R&D projects, and then we apply funding for these ones. And then we are working in the projects as one of the commercialization experts, hopefully also making the technology development activities. And then in the end, we have found out that maybe the easiest way to really start the business operations is to establish a joint venture, because the universities or research organizations where this innovation is born, there are always certain types of needs or expectations in terms of the ownership of the actual IP, intellectual property. And when we are all putting our own expertise and even resources into a new entity, then negotiating some type of a deal is easier. Of course, there are other methods as well, and if you really would like to go into that discussion, then just raise your hand and we can discuss more about this one. But it's a topic that might last for quite some time. All right, so we are measuring our activities via funding raised, sales generated, or how many commercialization cases we are working on. Of course, in the future, we are going to also measure the portfolio companies or portfolio initiatives that we are having running. And here I give you a couple of examples what we are currently quite actively advancing. So as mentioned, our focus is very much on the life science field. So e-beam for therapy is one of the projects that also the European Innovation Council is supporting. So we are generating a new type of a therapy, or at least a technology that can be used in future for new type of cancer therapy. And then we have also our own software suite, which can be used for analysis of clinical data. So basically genomics and the variants. So with this one, we are going more into the personalized medicine. And currently, we are starting our first case with a real client. So then we really know what technology readiness level we are at, which is one of the main instruments that we are using to measuring where we are in the route of the innovation commercialization. Then there are a couple of other things like purification technology for pharma companies, which we are developing. We are quite low in the technology readiness level with this one. Then we have a health startup, digital health startup, which is actually working on the osteoarthritis. And finally, we also have another laser tech, which is focused on the quantum computers. And for these ones, we have raised quite a bit of funding. And why the numbers look quite big is that we are working together with quite a number of partners. And when you are working in innovation commercialization, especially lab related innovations which are going to be sold to businesses, not to consumers, then you definitely have to work in collaboration with various bodies in order to really develop it to a state which would be acceptable and feasible. Nowadays, nobody knows all the technologies or the science behind what is needed in order to take it to the market. So that's why collaboration is very much sought after. And also this brings access to a bigger network, which will give you feedback, which you can then use to refine the actual solution and also the value prop. So then you would understand much better who is the customer who would like to pay for it, and then what is the perceived value actually. So what are you doing for them, why they really would like to purchase this one. Adrian and I, we are working on Ventures Thrive growth program, which is an investment program. And here we are looking for not researchers, but startups who are already quite far on the commercialization roadmap. So basically, companies that we are taking a look at are already having the first clients. They have understood what the technology is good for. They have managed to convince somebody to give at least a soft commitment to buy, and they have managed in many cases to find an investor who is really believing in their story. And in innovation commercialization, the story is pretty much the key. So you have to understand where you are going. So value proposition is super important. And then once you start understanding the value proposition and basically the clients and the problem that you are solving, then you can generate a story which starts to be, well, at least if you are managing to do it, an attractive story, then you can get investors to believe in you. And when you are working with investors, they might be private investors, they might be individuals, or they might be public investors, so governmental organizations. And they all think differently. So, for example, governmental investors, they always have some type of a mandate or a goal. For example, they have all this cash lying around for solving the climate change. So what you can do is that you can spin a story on the climate change, and then it's more likely to get this funding. The private investors, they might have similar things what they are expecting, but usually for them, you have to really show how are they making the money back. And this might take quite a while until you really figure out what is the actual business case and the business model that you are applying. So when there is an innovation born in the lab, you basically have a technology, and then the work starts. We are really working with cases where we have to figure out what is the problem this technology is going to solve. And that's I think it's the fun of all what we are doing. Just here a couple of companies what we have selected actually in the Ventures Thrive project. So we have 12 companies which pretty much are solving some type of a climate issue or planetary issue when it comes to the environment. So everybody is promising to do something good for us and even for humankind. And now we are going more into health related challenges with this program. So we are soon choosing some 20 companies more. So let's get from lab to market. And as mentioned, it's sometimes a bit complicated journey, and I try to be quick. And if you have any questions, then just raise a hand, and we can go into details and even examples. We have quite a number of examples that hopefully we can share. And basically, as mentioned, I will cover here the commercialization route when it comes to the B2B type of innovation. So really not creating a jumping rope with the researchers. Maybe sometimes it would be better off using the tech as a jumping rope, but we are thinking that, okay, these technologies might be used in something rather complex or value adding in great numbers, so to speak. When one is starting the innovation commercialization, and there is an innovation, there are questions which I think these 6 are probably the biggest ones. So our clients are usually dealing with these questions, and of course we are dealing with these ones as well, because we are a part of several projects which are generating innovations as well. So is this discovery somehow valuable? And this is a question where you are spending most of the time. Probably getting the answer to this question takes a long time. It might take several years because you have experienced maybe a phenomenon which is creating some type of a end result, and then the work actually starts. So who can really use this, what I have just created? And then the exploitation model. So how do you really take this somewhere so that the development is paid by somebody? So you will get with the story that you are thinking is good for, you would get resources to embark on the route of the commercialization. This exploitation word is quite a big word, especially if you are dealing with public funding organizations. They really would like to see an exploitation model. So when you are submitting a proposal, then you already have to show that the results created in this project are somehow exploitable, and there is some type of an exploitation model. So nowadays, it's even more and more important in typical basic research project. You have to address this issue. And even though your idea or innovation is at very low level, maybe just a concept on paper, you have to start thinking, okay, so how will it sustain itself if I start developing it further? And what will be the thing that I will be developing? Then when we are talking about exploitation, you have to have some type of a vehicle, commercialization vehicle. Do I establish a company which will be producing something or providing services? Or is it better off that I just license this technology out to somebody? The IP protection is a very important aspect. When I went to university, I'm an engineer. So one of the teachers said that, okay, 50% of you guys, maybe even 60% of you guys will be dealing with patents in your life. And I thought that, well, I'm not sure that I'm going to be very innovative and doing patents in my life. But then now it's almost like daily that I have to work on patents. So patenting is basically everywhere because it's a very strong tool to protect your intellectual property. And why is it strong? Because if you have something concrete which you can put on paper, you can mention what the innovation really is, how it's made, where it can be used, what type of value it creates, then that would be a valuable document in the next phases in the commercialization. So against this patent, you can basically get funding because the investors, especially private investors, think that if you don't have anything that protects the IP, there is no real value. It's very difficult to put in the books what is the actual value. So at least there is a patent which can be sold in the worst case scenario. Then when you are commercializing, you basically would like to know where do I go to get more money and how much money I'm going to ask. And this is a very difficult thing to figure out. So you have to start thinking quite a lot where you are going, what type of application you are addressing, what is the solution, and so on and so forth. There are a number of things which we will cover in the next slides. We are quite lucky in Europe and in a number of countries in Europe that we have lots of different types of grants that we can get in the first phases in the innovation commercialization. Much of the funds are directed to, of course, research and research groups, but then also to companies. And here comes the dilemma. When do I establish a company in order to start applying grants? And I think the good answer that we have found is that as late as possible, because that will help you to outsource the risk. So if you can apply any public grant which is directed for research groups, then it's much better than applying grants for your startup. And immediately when you establish the startup, the life of the startup starts growing, which means that next year you are already 1 year older, which means that it's much less likely to get funds from the public sources. And at some point they just stop. It all depends. Startup, there are so many different definitions for this one, but this is what the public organizations are taking a look at. Our key tools are basically the KTH readiness level gauges, and we are working with 3 different gauges. Maybe 2 are enough, but somehow we keep having all these 3 on the table and also on the proposals that we are writing, because nowadays it's very good to have a framework where you are going, how do you measure your own readiness, and then use these metrics to show that, okay, after this project, you are in a different level. And technology readiness level is the one that everybody is using, and it's describing the actual technology. And it's also describing some part of the application that you are using this technology for. So for example, technology readiness level 9 says that actual technology system is proven in operational environment. So it really means that you have to be somewhere in industry using your technology to produce something super valuable. So some client, a customer, is using it and getting value from your technology. So you have to go into details very early on to understand where you are with your technology readiness level. And still this concept is not very well known, because somebody tries to put technology readiness level 4 technology validated in lab for a method which is not tied to an application that brings value. And that is quite challenging, especially for funding organizations. So here in our project, Ventures Tribe, we are giving funds to startups who are in the health domain. And if they are coming with a story that, okay, we have a method which is not tied to an application and the technology readiness level is high, we basically can't do anything at that moment. They really need to work a bit more in order to understand who the customer is and what they are really trying to solve. And then business readiness level and funding readiness level, these are important bits for funding organizations, especially for private organizations, but also public ones, because they are nowadays following these gauges. So they really would like to see where you are at in the thinking of the business case. All right. So although I'm engineer turned being an entrepreneur, I haven't managed to shake off my internal engineer during these years, and I like to go into processes quite a bit. And basically, I'm describing here the thought process that we are going through each and every time we are working with new innovation in the lab, which was born in the lab. And the reason why we are working through this process is that usually in the first phase, you really would like to go into proof of concept phase. And in this proof of concept phase, you would really demonstrate that this actual technology can do something useful in the lab and it's somehow repeatable. And also in the proof of concept phase, you try to check whether the business thinking or the exploitation model, like we mentioned earlier, is something that is viable and you can really start building on it. The value capturing is usually the first phase. I'm always asking that, okay, you have this innovation, what good it actually does? So where can it be used? What is the application or what are the applications? And very often, these applications are a number of applications. So they usually say, these researchers to me, that, okay, this can be used in quantum computers, it can be used in pharma, it can be used in whatever new software. And at that moment, you really have to start thinking about, okay, what type of a value creation you are basing your thoughts here. So why these pharma companies would be using this technology. And that is the first moment when you are introducing the value proposition concept, which basically is nowhere near being ready, or you are nowhere near being ready to answer to, because you have to understand really what the customer thinks. And at this moment, you don't know the customer. You might know the end user at some level, but that's it. And then you have to start thinking about, okay, what is the phenomenon that you have created? What can it do? What can it do better than the existing process? And then you can start getting to the other end of the actual application. So if the actual phenomenon can be known and it can be benchmarked to an existing one, then basically somebody is already using this existing phenomenon in some application. And that's the starting point. So you would definitely start to see what that brings. And then you can start answering to questions like, okay, who is the client? What other applications there might be? And then important aspect is also the market size. Remember, we mentioned this commercialization vehicle earlier, and very often the market size will give you an answer to this. So if your client is a very big, world-leading organization, the only organization in the world, then the market size might be quite small because you only have one client. And in that case, it might not be wise to establish a company. So you should also consider that, okay, maybe we just license this technology to someone who would be using it for their benefit. Would that be a commercialization vehicle for my case? Then at this phase, one should also consider that, okay, if everything is good, we have something valuable here, somebody is willing to pay for it, there is really a market for it. How do I then take it to the market? And usually there are big ideas that, okay, this can be used by, let's say, 2 million companies in the world, but usually this is not the first place where you are going to and develop a product to 2 million companies. You probably want to see a pilot client, so low-hanging fruit clients. So basically, if I develop it a little bit, then my neighbor would like to use it, and they could even pay for it, or at least pay for my services or consultancy on improving a process, for example. So you have to start thinking about what is easy, what is possible, and then at some moment you start also understanding that, okay, if I take this low-hanging fruit strategy that, okay, I will start selling to my neighbor, and there in my country there are 3 similar organizations, then maybe I will target those guys. And in order to develop something useful for these people and organizations, how much money do I need to get there? So that first I demonstrate that, okay, this is useful, and then make it a product which can be sold to these guys. So even meeting the regulatory environment and applying these marks and all these things. And that will give you idea of the resourcing you need. And then at the same time, you start understanding that, okay, once I have dealt with these clients, I can go to a bigger group because they have a bit different need and so on and so forth. And that will give you more answers also to the IP strategy. So how do I start protecting the technology or innovation I have in order to be protected in this business strategy, during this strategy, what I have created. And that's usually the first phase where we are when the innovation commercialization is really thought of. And the IP protection comes basically during the proof of concept phase, or even before, if you really understand the market. So if you are in pharma industry, then basically you already know that, okay, there is only one application. I'm curing a disease, and then you can start immediately doing the protection. During the proof of concept phase, you would really like to go and talk to the market players. So get feedback from the stakeholders and get also feedback from customers. And then you can start understanding more about also the value proposition and start making the websites and all these things so that you have all the nice statements, what you are really doing. We are working quite a bit in this phase. So we have maybe 100 or 200 professors with whom we have gone through this, let's say, technology readiness level 4. And only handful of these are advancing to the next phase. There are several reasons why the funnel is like this. So usually somebody needs to lead the commercialization. Although we would like to be the leaders, it also means that if you are a leader, there is a lot of time involved. So one person can maybe take 1, maximum 3, I would say, cases to really lead. And if you are not expert, if you don't know the clients, it's very difficult. So basically, you have to start putting a team together which has complementary skills, understands also the market, not only the science, but also the technology. And then you can go to the next phase. And of course, money is an important aspect here. So in order to do a demonstration in quite relevant environment, you basically need quite a bit of money. And if it's a scientific innovation, then we are talking usually 6 figures, 7 figures, maybe even 9 figures if you are in pharma field. And during this technology readiness level 5 phase, you should really try to figure out how the market feels, and you should really try to get some type of commitments from the clients and from the investors as well, because that will be hard currency in the next phases in the innovation commercialization. And once you have been very successful and diligent and lucky with getting all the funds, and the clients are liking your ideas, then you should be establishing and ramping up your operations. So you would really start the sales, you know what you are selling, and of course, the regulatory compliance is very important here. So you have to have already the CE marks. It has to address whatever is required to carry out this activity. And then very often the funding agencies and also the private investors, when you are raising funds, they are asking a number of times where else your technology or innovation can be used, because they really would like to see a continuum. So you should have a possibility to carry out continuous R&D and introduce new products. Like mentioned, the creating the value prop is very difficult. You have to understand a number of things, and it's very likely that the things that you decided or thought were true in the beginning are no longer there. So you have gone through your value prop a number of times already, and you have pivoted your business case a number of times. And if you have managed to be agile in this process as well, then you finally probably reach the technology readiness level 9, where the product is pretty much perfect, and you can just hire sales guys to take the market share that you really would like to take. I promised to mention a bit of the EIC funding instruments as well. I have actually quite a number of these ones here, but we are not going into details with each and every one. I think the main idea is to give a glimpse what is available, but this is now like a new section in the presentation. So if you have anything to ask regarding the innovation commercialization, what has been addressed so far, then I think now it would be a great time for such a discussion.
I have a couple of questions, right?
Okay, go ahead.
For commercialization, would it be better for a startup or for a company just to sell out to a bigger company other than to just produce the products themselves? Because I think it would be better to sell to, like, for example, Microsoft or a big company like that, or it's the next strategy, a bad one.
Yes. In very early phase in the innovation commercialization, one should also try to think, how do you get rid of your business? So the exit strategy. And this is one of the evolving things that you are really developing during the roadmap, because you really do not understand where you are going and what is the possibility. Of course, you are able to create a very nice story and a vision, but you don't know if that's possible. And in a number of cases, we kind of take the shortcut in the beginning, trying to get to a quick exit, at least in the story. So basically, we are using two different methods. So first, we try to understand what market we are really disrupting and who is really going to be pissed off at us. And that might be the first potential customer for your exit. So they would either like to kill you or buy you out. And that might be one of the ways that you would like to do it. It might get ugly, but at least you have been thinking about it. And then the second is you have to understand probably the value chain quite well. Who are you providing lots of value? So are you enabling somebody to sell better, make their products better, make them somehow bigger or somehow better? And that might be another possible exit target. And in this case, usually there are a number of those types of organizations. And if you have identified this one, then you are probably already identifying quite a bit of what value you are creating in the applications and the value prop as well. And here you have then probably identified a partner. So you should introduce yourself to these guys because you are adding value and they are not angry at you coming to the market because you are helping them to sell more. So it would be beneficial to start collaborating. So why don't you ask them to join an R&D project together, because that's also one method of selling. So these types of ideas we are usually floating in the beginning. Of course, the IPOs and stuff you hear at the business school, they are also possible, but they come quite a bit later.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Andy, can you talk just a bit about maybe a commercialization, a product or a product, an example of one that failed in the upper stages and why?
Yes. So this funnel from lab to market and who will succeed, I think there are a number of ways you can really fail. It doesn't help if your technology is the best, because the market is not definitely coming to you and taking it from you. So you have to have quite a bit of perseverance to develop it to a level which is at the right, let's say, demonstration level at least. So it should be, like Adrian, you mentioned earlier, it should be easy to install, easy to really start using. And this would be something that you have to be thinking of. So are you able to provide a product which is there, can be adapted easily, and then if not, are you at least able to provide a service along with, so that people start using it and it's providing value to somebody, so that somebody really gives money for it. And in order to get there, that requires a lots of understanding about the market, lots of convincing. You have to be credible, you have to have the resources, and everything usually boils down to the team. So private investors are always saying to you that, okay, we will invest into your case if you have a good team. And you might be wondering why that is. The team is 80%, maybe even 90% of the whole case. A good team can make a crappy technology a world-winning product. So that's the thing. So you have to have lots of energy and just push so that you are taking it to the market. Basically, entrepreneurs very often, they are crying for more money, but the money doesn't actually help too much if you don't know how to use it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that speaks a little bit to your point earlier about when and how to, or when to establish a company. Because if you don't have enough business acumen on the team, then you establish a company. You, first of all, you have operating expenses of that company, and it having a company does enhance your credibility with investors and clients and so forth. But if the company is not really functioning properly, then you actually kill whatever credibility you do have. So I think that's very much a key question in terms of having everything that you need on the team as part of that timing aspect. So
yeah, and also you have to always remember that creating a business and going to the market is a very long road, which also means that times are changing, the requirements are changing, and you have to change yourself all the time. So in the beginning, you have to be like a bloodhound, which is like, okay, just going over all the fences and trying to get that piece of meat, so that you have all what it takes to go to the next level. And then over the years, 10 years down the road, you have to be the golden retriever that keeps the people happy in the organization. So you yourself have to change, or you have to accommodate the positions with the right people.
You need to bring in new dogs to come and join the old dogs. Manoli, you had your hand up for a second. You want to make a comment, question?
Yes, thank you. Is it possible to launch a startup, a spin-off at the very beginning, just as a vehicle to raise innovation funding? I understand that the element of the business acumen or the strategy overall is not fixed yet, since it's early on, but since in the academia or research sector, maybe it's common to establish a company so as to raise funding. That's it. Is it one of the reasons for you?
Yeah, so when I'm going down that road that a company will be established early on, then probably I would like to park the IP somewhere, and I understand already the funding roadmap that I would like to apply. And usually at that moment, I already have in mind potential partners, and then do R&D collaboration with those guys, and then really start selling at some moment. Of course, if you are talking about innovation, which is like pharma product and a drug, then you probably have to establish the company very quickly, because you can't apply too much of public funding. So you have to rely on private funding as well. And that is a dilemma. Nowadays, when, for example, if we are talking about European Innovation Council funding, they start to favor proposals which have a clear commercialization roadmap and also the vehicle already established. So, for example, I have here on the screen the Pathfinder, Transition, and Accelerator. And usually the Pathfinder, when you are creating something very risky in terms of the research and of course trying to gain high rewards, then basically nobody is expecting you to have a company. And here it will be really counteractive. So if you say that there is a company, then it might also mean that the technology readiness level is higher, which means that, okay, you are not yet starting in the research field, so you might not be eligible, but it all depends how do you use your words and how do you introduce this company here in the proposal and so on and so forth. But in the next phase, already 40% of the cases in the transition are basically led by a startup which is hosting the IP. So it's coming more and more important. And of course, in the accelerator phase, it can't be university. It has to be always a company which is already made a point, basically. So they already have clients and they are on their way to growing. So everything depends. I would really not rush into things and establish the company. But if that's your only way, basically getting the next level funding, like some cascade funds, for example, which are like 50K things, then sure, you go that road.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, then in that case, maybe a short glimpse on the EIC funds and various instruments. So nowadays, European Innovation Council is probably the biggest organization. I don't know if it's in the world the biggest organization for funding innovative research commercialization, but at least in Europe, it's really top class. And the competition is getting fierce at the same time. But they are on the right track, also choosing their own tools, how they are really promoting this innovation commercialization and building also tools around it, so that in each and every gap there is, they are trying to introduce a new type of instrument, and they are also open for others, external players, to propose new instruments. But in those cases, they are usually just giving you the money and saying that, okay, you have a good idea, so please go and implement it. And those are usually called cascade funds. So the main tools, Pathfinder, Transition, Accelerator. So these are very hard to get. If you are top researcher, you should really go and try to get the Pathfinder. If you are very low at the technology readiness level, you have ideas, how do you create something great using research? And then usually you will do a consortium, which is developing different parts of this innovation. And also at this point, you already have to have some type of an idea of the exploitation, and hopefully you can get somebody on board to carry out studies on the exploitation and plans. Transition is a super exciting instrument in a sense that you would definitely go and demonstrate. So you are not developing the science behind, you are just developing the actual technology and try to make it as a product. And here you demonstrate the actual, let's say, solution and also the business case behind. So if you remember my slide earlier, basically you are getting those letter of interests or even intents or purchases or giving you the funds in the next phases, because that's what is really for. So European Innovation Council really wants to see that you are talking with the market and you have good chances of really establishing your business. And then finally, the EIC Accelerator, which is a very hard to get funding. So the percentage are super low, single digits, couple of percents. So you have to have something very unique, which is solving a huge problem, huge challenge. Usually health tech companies developing some type of a drug or therapy are good here, or somebody who is solving, let's say, energy crisis or carbon capturing in very big manner. So nothing incremental, very disruptive innovations are expected to arrive here. But that can be used, this EIC Accelerator, for your benefit. So doesn't matter if you're not getting the funds, there is a mechanism that allows you to get the funds even though EIC is not giving you those funds. And that's called Seal of Excellence. So if you are good enough and you are not getting the funds, you are getting the seal. And with the seal, in certain countries, you can go to the national funding agencies and show that you have been vetted by the European Commission and you guys should give me some money. And usually they have some type of a budget. In some countries, like I think in Germany, in Spain, maybe some others as well, have introduced these budgets to fund companies who are good enough.
Yeah, in Spain, I'll just give an example. One of the startups that we have in our portfolio was good enough, got the seal of excellence, did not get the money, the final grant from the EIC Accelerator, but then did exactly that. They went to the Spanish government, who had funds set aside, and they were able to receive the money. It's not exactly the same amount as they would have gotten from the EIC grant, but it's very, very close to that. And it's also, it doesn't come with the same kind of strings in terms of the equity that sometimes the EIC Accelerator asks for. So it can be a really great solution. Maybe, Andy, do you want to talk? Actually, I have a question first of all, and then also just I guess it's two questions. One is if you want to talk a little bit about the amount of funding that's associated with each of these three steps. And then two, do companies typically move from one to the other and then the other, or is it difficult once you've received funds in one of these stages to go up to the next one or two?
Yeah, so this is a funnel where the number of cases are going lower and lower in terms of the lab-based innovations which are supported by EIC. So in the Pathfinder phase and in the transition phase, they are really waiting you to show that you understand this funnel. So basically in the Pathfinder, you have to say that, yes, I really would like to go to the next steps, transition and accelerator. And in the transition phase, you say that, okay, I really would like to go and apply for the accelerator because this is really their product. So they want to see the client to stay with their own products forever. So that's the way to go. And I have a slide for each instrument so we can quickly go through these ones.
Great.
And I can show you some other examples as well. So basically, the easiest for you to get are the cascade funds. And usually these ones are simple to apply. You will get quick results and the money is pretty, let's say, easy to use. So you can really use it for various purposes, but very often to the different parts of the innovation commercialization, IP protection, business development, product development, something like this. And the amounts, they range from, I would say, to few thousands to 100,000, basically. And these projects and cascade funds, these keep popping up all the time. So usually they are open 2 months, and then there is already a new one coming up immediately after. And we can't know them beforehand, because these ones are the ones that, okay, are granted, for example, by the EIC, and then they give you, they will sign the documents, and once they are signed, these cascade funds start. And at that moment, they just start the marketing, and then basically you have to be in the lookout for new cascade funds all the time. But synergistic EIC is one that you could take a look, 50K for you to improve so that you can be EIC accelerator worthy. Then we have X 2.0, where you are already quite advanced and you would be working with impact builders. So you would be purchasing somebody to do something for you. For example, fundraising activities. So this is another type of a cascade fund. Then there is a trend now. So lots of funding is available for women-led companies. So if you are not sure who to take into your team, then try to co-found your startup with a female founder, and your chances of getting funding is higher. So usually these guys are taking a look at the co-founders and the C-level positions. So if the CEO is a woman, then all is good, and you are eligible of getting funds. The Women Leadership Program is actually not giving you too much of funds, but it's more on the mentoring side. But there are other examples as well. WomenTech EU, this is a new, well, it has been already there, but there is a new batch coming up. And in March, a new call will be, I don't know if they even close it, but the project hasn't really started. But these guys have like 12 millions to be distributed over 2 years, and they have 4 calls. And basically the rule is that if you are applying the first call, then the chances of getting the money is much higher because nobody knows about it. So definitely try to find also those ones who are new kids on the block. So there is less demand and much easier. I'm very often talking to a Greek company, which I know very well, and they are very technology oriented. They are quite big actually as well. And they said to me that they are taking a look at the cascade funds all the time. And they basically are getting like 50% of the cascade funds they are applying. So that's probably the highest track record I ever heard of. But it's also possible to just, okay, feed your innovation commercialization through small funds. That's also possible. EIC Accelerator, like mentioned, here the point is that you should really focus on the challenges they have. So on the left, we have the human-centric generative AI, Industry 5.0, smart edge, quantum tech, food, monoclonal antibody therapies, and renewable energy sources. Even though you are applying to the open ones, there is an open and challenge category. For the open, you can suggest whatever type of a company, but still their budgets have gone down. So if you are mentioning these challenges, the chances are better actually. So try to be aligned with the challenges Europe is facing and also the priorities. And then it's much easier to get funding from the public organizations. Transition, that's probably not very relevant for you because it's a quite closed club. So transition, usually one can apply if you have had certain type of a project before, and there is always a list who is eligible. The way you can use this instrument is that you would collaborate with somebody who is eligible in applying. So try to identify clients and see if they are eligible. And then you can be a partner. You don't always have to send your own proposal. You can just partner in somebody else's proposal as well. Pathfinder, here again, challenges. The applications are closing in October, and okay, there is an open call now in March, but it always takes several months to write the good proposals. So October would be probably the feasible option. And here, if the innovation is super good, super disruptive, try to make a research project out of it. Then there is the Tech to Market program. And this is like an entrepreneurship and venture building program, very new initiative by the EIC. And now there are several calls coming up. There are boot camps and different types of mentoring programs coming up. So you should really try to Google this and see if this would be good. But again, here, who gets accepted is a very, very narrow group of people. So most will be accepted from the Pathfinder and the EIC transition projects, basically. And then finally, I think there are a couple of other examples I would like to share. So here is a fund, a Cascade fund as well, which is for companies registered in Ukraine. So specifically created to support Ukraine. And then empowering women is, again, another example of supporting women-led startups. And it's now open. So basically applications are accepted until March. But with these Cascade funds, you really have to have the startup already. So they are really asking for your VAT number or registration number or something like this. So be sure that you really would like to establish your company at this point. InnoBuyer, this is closed, but similar types of projects might appear in the future. So really putting together companies who are buying and really expecting solutions from startups. So you might find a client through this one. So if a challenge is familiar, you might have a solution for it. So take a look at what type of challenges there are in the market, and these types of projects might be your friend. And then finally, prices. So if you are looking for publicity and try to gain the visibility of your clients or even investors, you can consider applying for prizes. So European Prize for Women is one of the prizes run by EIC, but there are several others. Yeah.
Sorry, the screen's frozen for me. I don't know if it's frozen for other people. You want to click
Yes,
one more
the
time?
same for me.
Okay, can you click one more time on the second slide behind the EIC prizes? Yeah, click forward. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay. And then I think that's it. So that was like a combined package of everything. So I don't know if I addressed the need here and the value was as expected.
Definitely. It was a great overview and some really, really good insights, at least from me. I'll just a couple of the folks here. It's an interesting group that we have. Manoli is the head of the tech transfer office at one of the largest research institutes here in Thessaloniki in Greece, one of the largest research institutes in Greece. Georgi and his team from MFT are joining us from Tbilisi in Georgia. They're working on a very interesting, very, very early stage startup. Fationa is a living lab researcher. She's based, I believe, in Fationa. You're in Albania, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, I'm in Albania.
Yeah. And Lasha, I'm not sure where you're from. If you'd like to put a note in the chat, we would be.
Hello, sorry. I'm from Tbilisi, also Georgia. We are dedicated on fishes. We are making IoT company about fish monitoring.
Oh, great. I know you guys. I didn't recognize the name. Sorry. Okay, so once again, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. I think that our startup founder must have had some kind of a conflict, because I sent him a message and he said he was going to join earlier and he hasn't yet. So I might keep you guys on just for a few minutes. Andy, I know you've probably got more meetings, unless folks have more questions for you. Anybody have any further questions? Okay. I once again, Andy, thank you so much for the time and for the insights. There was I learned some stuff I didn't know at all. So very.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I was stressing, as we have been working together for a long time, but we never kind of saw or heard of our real expertise. So we've been just doing stuff for the future.
Yeah, well, most of it we've gotten through osmosis, but as you said, and it's also we're so focused on building stuff in the future that we've kind of forgotten to hear about the past. So, Fationa, did you want to make a comment or have a question?
Yes, I have to add something in relation to the presentation of Andy.
Please.
Also, I have enjoyed it and I learned a lot, especially for the transfer level technology. And I had this concept, or I found this concept during my work as expert evaluator for European project and for European Research Council grants. And thanks a lot, because I learned a lot in relation to this, because I was a little bit confused since it's not in my field of expertise. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I addressed some things and you could even learn new things. So
Okay.
very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I very much encourage you, Fationa, if you ever go into, well, not if you ever, but when you do start working to kind of move your lab into more active participation in things, absolutely take a good look at all the different kinds of projects and cascade funding programs that the European Union offers, because it's a very straightforward and pretty simple way to get money to develop.
Yeah, yes, that is true, but I'm seeing this from my perspective as evaluator, because as applicant it's very difficult.
Yeah.
If you are from a country such as Albania, that there are low resources and you have to go for big consortia and a big collaborations and partners if you want to get the funding, because as you said also, Adrian, in your presentation, you have to find this difference that to the product or the results should to be something that is different and is missing in the market. Exactly. So for that is very difficult, and you have to be very innovative and creative if you want to succeed in this kind of projects. And my experience as evaluator has taught me that it's very difficult in this perspective, but in the other hand has helped me a lot to define the objectives or the problem or the need analysis if you want to write a project that is not so competitive as is in the European Union, especially for the health programs that are very competitive in Horizon. It is very difficult to get funding because there are very qualitative and excellent proposals and consortia, so it's very difficult to win. But I think that for me, this experience can help me to create this living lab, because actually I'm in a consortium that we have passed the first stage in a Horizon project, and we are now preparing the full proposal for the second stage. And the living labs there play an important role. And one of the living labs will be developed here in Albania. So I will try to transfer this knowledge that I have gained during these sessions for this, and to create a work package that is real and represents the needs that we have actually for the living labs. Because it's very difficult if you have not tried the living labs for real to assimilate the concept that they are, especially in countries such as Albania. I have also the opportunity to visit other living labs rather than the living lab of Thessaloniki. I was in the Lika lab in Belgium. Also, they are very advanced in this regard. And maybe if we want to succeed in the living lab, we have to take notes of all the things that you have taught us today. So for my point of view are very, very important, especially because we have also lacking of capacity building and training in relation to this. We have to create these concepts and to put in everyday vocabulary the concept of the living labs. And I have to say that also in the European Commission, during the evaluation of the project, we have raised this problem because most of the researchers now are using the living labs as their strong point in the proposal, but there is no further elaboration of what these living labs will do for real in real settings. So there is this part of co-creation, co-design, but the implementation and the translation of it into practice is very difficult to get a real product for these living labs. So thank you very much again for the opportunity and to be with you in these sessions, also in the last one that will be the next week.
Great, great. Well, we hope to see you all next week at Andy. You don't have to come; it's okay. In the final workshop, which will be on Thursday. And I think we're going to go ahead and call it a day for today. Again, thanks all very, very much for being here, and thank you very much, Andy. It was a super presentation. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you in a week. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Thank you.
Bye-bye.